The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport, and good morning to you all. It is December 3rd on a beautiful Tuesday. I'm Izubee Charles, joined by Stephen Wagner, and welcome to Good Morning CaneSport. Stephen, we have a ton to talk about, but we're going to start on the recruiting fronts. National Signing Day, the early signing period is tomorrow, December 4th, and there is going to be a lot of things going on down here in South Florida and across the country as the Miami Hurricanes looks to round out that top 20, that 2025 class. But there has been a subtraction from that class as we found out yesterday that Drake Stubs, the four-star safety out of Mandarin High School, flipped his pledge from the Miami Hurricanes to the Florida Gators, and something that we spoke about, a little bit during our last Canes recruiting podcast, and now it officially happened. So, Steven, just want to get your thoughts on the Gators being able to flip Drake Stubs from the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, I feel like if you had told me that or that Florida was going to flip Drake Stubbs away from Miami 6 months ago, I would have said, yeah, okay, that sounds about right. I kind of figured something like that would happen. But the way that this actually ended up happening is kind of surprising to me, because while objectively, I think a lot of us always viewed the Gators as a really likely landing spot for Stubbs. He'd been very, very solid with Miami really through the fall. This fall, there really wasn't a time that we thought Stubbs was going to go to Florida before really the last week. It wasn't until the last week or so, whenever we really started thinking, man, I think there's a very legitimate chance he's going to go ahead and flip. Because, I talked about this on yesterday's Good Morning CaneSport. Stubbs was kind of felt like Stubbs was probably a Gator for really a lot of his junior year. Even in the spring, it really felt like he was going to be a Gator. He surprised a lot of people whenever he committed to USC. But then once he flipped to Miami, we all thought that he was pretty much done. This definitely came as a surprise to me because of the way that it happened, because it really did look like he was solid with Miami, like he was locked in with Miami really throughout the fall. And then, Mario Cristobal by Florida. What Miami is so used to doing with other commits, they did with Florida, or Florida did to them. Florida came in at the 11th hour and stole a top prospect from right from Miami. I mean, I can't speak, because I'm just wondering what the heck's going on, because this is so uncharacteristic for Mario Cristobal. I mean, you hear me over here stumbling over my words. It's just I really, really, really did not see something like this coming, and certainly not Miami being in the state that they are currently in, where they are in danger of losing quite a few top players. I say quite a few, losing potentially three top, or having lost one player already, potentially losing up to three total players. I just really, really did not see this coming, in addition to Miami very possibly striking out on the guys that are left on their board. I did not see this coming.
Yeah, I think you said it best. You said Mario Cristobal got Mario Cristobal. Then these last 2 years, we've seen, Miami with a 5-7 record in, 2022 flip a handful of guys late in that 2023 cycle. We saw Miami last year with a 7-5 record flip a handful of guys in that 2024 cycle. So, 2 years running, you're seeing, Coach Cristobal, all those guys finish really, really strong on the recruiting fronts, go into different classes, take guys. And then now it finally happens. Coach Cristobal, his third year at the helm of the Hurricanes. And it's kind of surprising. We've been talking about how Miami's looking to poach guys like Ben Hanks and TJ Alford, and are in the mix with guys like Dallas Wilson. And then, with recruitment, you said this on the board this weekend on Sunday. You said, hey, this is a really, really fluid thing. Things could change in a heartbeat. And we saw that happen with Drake Stubbs. Throughout the fall, he's, locked in with Miami. He's going to multiple Miami games. He's saying he's loving the progression of the team. And then he gets on campus to Florida this past weekend, and then boom, he flips his commitment. So things can happen really, really quickly in the recruiting world. We're kind of seeing this, in firsthand. And like you said, Mario Cristobal, not something that any Canes fan wants to see, after a 10-2 season and after having the success they had on the field. And I've been seeing, whether it's on the message board or social media, guys are always saying, hey, we want to see Miami win. And then when Miami wins, it looks like they're going to have their lowest recruiting class in the last 3 years since Mario Cristobal's been here. But I do think, obviously, not a lot of time left, but I do think Miami does have time. So make some things, shake and make some things interesting, down the final stretch. One guy the Hurricanes are still very much in the mix with is 5-star cornerback DJ Pickett, currently committed to LSU. But, Miami's not going away with that. Obviously, less than, ample time to make something happen, but the Hurricanes are going to, give their most down this final stretch till the 11th hour. So, Steven, you had the chance to catch up with, DJ Pickett's dad, who's been really open about what's going on in his son's recruitment. What's just the latest on that after that update with him?
Yeah, right now, I really do think that this recruitment is going to come down to relationships. Miami is going to continue making that all-out push. They are going to throw the kitchen table at DJ Pickett really until signing day. And I really do think that this is going to be a recruitment that's going to come down to whether DJ thinks that he has a better relationship with Corey Raymond or if he thinks he has a better relationship with Mario Cristobal. Because Mario is getting extremely hands-on with this recruitment. He is leading the way. I know we can't list head coaches as primary recruiters, but he absolutely is the primary recruiter. I don't think anyone has any doubt about that. This has been Mario Cristobal the whole way. And I think it's just because DJ Pickett was way too big of a recruit for Mario to just, say, all right, I'm not going to get involved with that guy. No, Mario has been insanely involved. He's been extremely hands-on. But it's that relationship with Corey Raymond that's keeping DJ locked in with LSU. He was back in Baton Rouge this weekend for their game against Oklahoma. He visited LSU a couple of weeks ago for their game against Alabama. Obviously, they got smoked by Alabama, and then they beat Oklahoma. But I still do think that LSU is probably in the most favorable position for him. If I was a betting man, I would probably lean toward the Tigers. But Mario can be really, really persuasive. And when Mario really wants to put the pressure on, whenever Mario knows it's time to turn the heat up, I mean, he has shown in years past, what he is capable of. But, I mean, quite frankly, we just haven't seen that yet this year. We haven't seen, the Miami close that we've seen the last two cycles. In fact, Miami could very well end up losing more recruits than they gain here in the final month of over the course of the last month of the early signing period. It's very possible that Miami will end up losing more recruits than they gained. I think that's kind of the way that it looks like right now, because Gavin Nicks, I do think that there's a chance that he could end up at Oregon, although he still could end up at Miami too. I think that one's pretty split. We talked about that on the site. I had a story on the site yesterday morning talking about that. And then Timothy Merritt, visited Tennessee multiple times this fall, hasn't visited Miami. I mean, come on, we can all kind of do the math there.
Yeah, I know. With those two guys, I kind of want to start with Gavin Nicks. Another situation where he's taking trips down to Miami, he's saying all the right things, and then boom, Oregon's making that, last push towards the end of the cycle, which caught, a few people by surprise that Gavin Nicks was really giving the Ducks a look. Obviously, the Oregon and Michigan and, programs of that caliber kind of stayed, around in his recruitment, similar to what Miami's always done, kind of floating around in the guy's recruitment. Obviously, he commits elsewhere, but they're still in his ear. And, we're seeing that, come to fruition at the end, but not in Miami's favor with the Ducks really, really making that push. And Steven, you had a great post on this situation as well, too, just obviously with this all coming down to the wire again. What are your thoughts on the Gavin Nicks situation? And, do you think he ultimately ends up in Miami? Do you think the Ducks get it done? Just what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Nicks and his family right now are very, very split. I think that this is still one that could go either way. This time yesterday, it was looking like he was probably leaning more toward Oregon. Right now, I think that he could end up either at Oregon or at Miami. Miami's shaky defense definitely did kind of give Nicks some concerns. And then I additionally think that that Miami losing to Syracuse on Saturday, the way that they did, where the offense just got absolutely torched. I mean, Syracuse went on what, a 35-7 run after Miami went up 21-0. I mean, the way that they lost, the way that they got torched, how shaky they've looked all year, the potential uncertainty with Miami's defensive coaches. I mean, quite frankly, right now, I personally, I'm not a team reporter. I don't know what's going to happen with Lance Guidry, with Derek Nicholson, with Chevis Jackson, with Joe Salveo, Jason Taylor, all of those guys. As a team, or as a recruiting reporter, I do not know what's going to happen. Matt and Gary might have a great pulse on it, but I personally do not know what's going to happen. And I think that a lot of these recruits not knowing what's going to happen, I think that they have a lot of questions about that too. It's instability, and I don't think anyone really likes instability. And certainly, not a kid like Gavin who, has pretty much shown throughout his whole recruitment that, he likes the idea of going somewhere that he knows is going to be stable. Where what you see is what you get. It's going to be the same every day. It's going to be, you're going to lean on the relationships that you built. You're going to have an idea of, where you're going to be, what you're going to major in, what your daily routine is going to be, who the coaching staff is going to be year over year. He really likes the idea of stability. And, right now there are more questions than answers for Miami. And, it's pretty insane that we're singing this tune, considering that, just a month ago, we were thinking to ourselves, man, there really is a chance that Miami could go undefeated and reach the playoff. We really were thinking that was a incredibly legitimate possibility, that they were going to get one of the 4 byes and they were going to be, potentially hosting a home playoff game at Hard Rock. Now I think we're singing a totally different tune. I think it's still very 50-50. Right now, as of the time that we're recording it on Tuesday morning, and like I said on yesterday's podcast, if this could totally change by the afternoon, I could be singing a totally different tune by the afternoon. But because this situation is going to be extremely fluid, and it's not even going to be, a day-to-day thing. At this point, we're more like, hour to hour, minute to minute. I'm going to keep my finger on the pulse as best I can. But right now, as of the exact moment that we're recording this, I still think it's very 50-50. I think it could go either way. He's telling Miami all of the right things, but the Ducks absolutely have his attention in an incredibly real way.
Yeah, I agree with you. When kind of the buzz first started picking up, I kind of, leaned a little bit towards Oregon. And, as things kind of calmed down a little bit, started thumbing through information, I'm thinking, this is a toss-up at the end of the day. Obviously, Miami would love to keep Gavin Nicks in that 2025 class, but the Oregon Ducks are making a massive, massive push. And I think you hit the nail, I think you hit it perfectly when you said stability. Obviously with, Miami's defense looking as shaky as it has, the back half of the season since the ACC play, I think they're, letting up more than 30 points a game. And, the secondary is not looking good. The linebackers aren't looking good. Just the defense at all isn't looking, too spectacular compared to how they started that season. Like you mentioned, a guy like Gavin Nicks goes to a program like IMG Academy where the stability is there. And that's something he's always preached about, wanting to play for the same staff, wanting to have that staff there for multiple years, not just coming in and, a whole different staff being there. So I think, the defense's play this year has kind of got in the minds of a few kids, and, going back to kind of the Gator situation with them keeping Billy Napier, with them kind of finding their strides at the tail end of the year, kind of the complete opposite of Miami losing, 2 of their last 3 games, I think is having, major implications on the recruiting trail. So we're going to really have to, buckle up and stay tuned to see how things kind of pan out these next 36 hours with that early signing period, starting in the morning. So we're going to have our, fingers and everything all over these situations, but, it's going to be exciting times, and it may be scary times down there in Coral Gables. But at the end of the day, I do think, Miami's going to come out and with the surprise, because like we said, these last 2 cycles, the Hurricanes and Coach Cristobal have had, that big splash in 2023 and the 2024. And I do think they're working on some things that I would be very, very, very surprised to see Miami kind of get completely gutted and see multiple guys, leave that class and have no one else come in return. Obviously, I do think, things are shaky with the Timothy Merritt situation. Like you said, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the kid is visited Tennessee a few times and hasn't visited the school he's committed to at all this year. So we'll have to see with that situation. And Moving on to a few more targets in that 2025 class, stick with the linebacker position group. TJ Alford and Kellen Wiley. Obviously, TJ Alford committed to Ohio State. Miami looking to flip him from the Buckeyes. And Kellen Wiley, one of the top uncommitted prospects in that 2025 class, left on the board. Steven, we'll start with TJ Alford. What's the latest with him? I know you had the chance to speak with him. It looks like it's coming down to Miami and Ohio State in the wire. It could be a decision, that goes right up to when pen hits paper.
Yeah, TJ's still in communication with Miami. The Hurricanes are going to keep pushing, but right now, I really do think that he's going to end up signing with Ohio State. To me, it sounds like the Buckeyes did enough on his weekend trip to Columbus to keep him locked in. With their program. I know obviously they lost to Michigan, but overall, I mean, it was a good visit for him. He likes seeing the intensity of the rivalry. He liked being able to see James Laurinaitis and Ryan Day. James Laurinaitis is someone that he's remained incredibly close with. He said, the defense was flying around and the defense played really, really well, which it did. I know that a lot of Miami fans are probably saying, man, why would you want to go to Ohio State? They can't even beat Michigan. Well, if you're real, if we're being honest here, I mean, right now, the level of program that Ohio State is at is kind of different from the level that Miami is at, and I think that is something that really does resonate with TJ. I mean, now it's absolutely possible that Miami is able to pull out some last minute magic, but right now I'm getting kind of doubtful. I'm definitely losing some confidence.
And then with Kellen Wiley, Texas seemed to be that front runner after he did not, take that visit to Miami, take that OV to Texas the weekend before. But, things look like Miami may have kind of merged a little bit, kind of said, hey, we're not completely out of this one yet. Don't count us out. Just said you had the chance to speak with Kellen extensively. Just where's his head at after you picked his brain a little bit?
Yeah, Miami's absolutely still in the mix. Miami 100% is a contender for Kellen Wiley. They are still recruiting him very hard. And I think that right now, Miami kind of understands, just how important that Kellen Wiley is as a prospect. Because it looks like they're going to miss out on TJ Alford. It looks like they could lose Gavin Nicks to Oregon. They're going to need another linebacker in the class. I mean, initially they did want 3 linebackers. Now it looks like maybe you might get lucky if you're able to keep 2. Ezekiel Marcelin is totally locked in with Miami, but he's really the only one who, right this second, is 100% solid. The other being, although albeit there's only 2 linebackers right now, Kellen Wiley in Texas and Miami. So it's definitely still a 14 battle between Texas, Florida, Miami, and Maryland. All 4 schools right now are kind of going back and forth. They're all battling with each other. They're all exchanging blows. There's definitely some positive vibes on the Texas side that have them thinking, man, we are going to go ahead and land this kid. I'm not, super duper confident in Miami's chances, but I do think that they will have a chance. Like I said, Miami is still making the requisite effort. Derek Nicholson is still very involved. A ton of recruiting staffers are extremely involved. He really is getting that priority treatment. He ended up not coming down for that official visit for the Wake Forest game. There is no bad blood about that situation. They've totally moved past it. Kellen's good with it because, and also I want to clarify kind of the way that Miami handled it was instead of saying, hey, we're canceling your visit so that we can focus on the Wake Forest game. They asked instead if he would be willing to reschedule, as opposed to completely saying, hey, we don't want to host you for a visit. So there's definitely no bad blood there. I think everyone's still on very good terms. It will, we'll see what happens. I still think there's a chance that Miami could land him. Hurricanes are definitely involved. I would expect a decision to probably actually be made at some point today, because then obviously tomorrow is going to be signing day, is going to be putting pen on paper. Kellen told me on Sunday that he wants to know where he's going by hopefully sometime on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday he'll actually announce the decision, probably with hats on the table.
Yeah, what a whirlwind it's been these last few weeks leading up to that December 4th early signing period. I feel like it was yesterday we were talking about, is Miami going to be able to crack a top five and, land a top five recruiting class? And now they're fighting to land a top 10 class with, these decommitments and uncertainties, whether they're going to get these guys to flip or, all this stuff coming down the final stretch. So even before we, wrap things up today, I want to get your, final thoughts. Do you think Miami has, a rabbit in the hat, a trick up their sleeve, or anything like that? Do you think they ultimately end up with a top 10 class, or do we see, Mario Cristobal slip out that top 10 range for the first time, in a full recruiting cycle as a head coach of the Miami Hurricanes?
Well, in years past, we would all say that, yeah, Miami is going to find a way to go ahead and get him. Miami is going to find a way to go ahead and close this thing out. But right now, I mean, you look at their board and you wonder, okay, where is the close coming from? Is Miami going to, which of these dudes on the board do you really feel great about Miami's chances with? I mean, last year, we saw Miami scoop up Jordan Lyle. We saw them scoop up we saw them scoop up Adarius Hayes on signing day. We thought that they were going to get Xavier Lucas, the cornerback from American Heritage. We thought that they were going to get, probably 3 or 4 or 5 guys. And there were all dudes on the board that we could all kind of sit around and look at and say, yeah, I feel really confident about Miami's chances, regardless of whether they ended up getting that guy or not. Right now, I mean, I'm looking at the board. I'm really not sure who I look at on the board and say, yeah, he's definitely, he's definitely coming. I feel good. Yeah, I feel good about what's going on there. I mean, to me, I just have more questions than answers right now, and certainly we're trying to get as many answers as we can, but we're going to have quite a bit of the fog of war here over the next 24 hours or so, and if we have, a Jeremiah Smith situation like we did last year where, maybe he signed his papers, but he's waiting to send his documents in until, really, really late at night. Who knows what could happen?
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty right now, as it always is when it comes to, these high profile recruitments coming down to the wires, especially in this day and age of NIL, with a lot of other things outside of football playing a huge factor in these recruitments. But like I've said, since I started covering this team, since I started covering the Hurricanes, Crystal's been here. I know it's not looking too bright right now, but there's not many coaches that I'd want, recruiting for my program down the final stretch. I'm going to stick with my guns. I'm going to say, hey, Coach Cristobal finds a way to get it done. I'm not, going to pinpoint a recruiter or say anyone specifically because there's so many different directions that this thing could go right now. But I do have the utmost confidence in Coach Cristobal and those guys. And I think, by the time December 4th is all said and done, Canes fans will be happy with the outcome of this 2025 class. Obviously, losing guys like Drake Stubs and potentially Gavin Nicks and Tim Merritt are huge blows to the class. But I said this on the board on Sunday, there's still a ton of great prospects in that 2025 group that fans should be excited about seeing, when they arrive in Coral Gables, when they, make their way to Green Tree. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The sky isn't falling. Obviously, like I said, losing recruits like Drake Stubbs is a big blow, but I do think Coach Cristobal and those guys are going to figure out, in the next 36 hours and, land some guys and, move around that 2025 group. So make sure to stay tuned with CaneSport as we have you covered with the latest in Miami's recruitment and a bunch of other team news. That's all that we have for this morning. For Stephen Wagner, I'm Izubee Charles. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day.